To answer that question, you start by finding a place in your life where nothing gets through anymore. Start somewhere easy, not the hard part of your life. You think about that one enough. Something else. Something you love that never asks anything of you, which is most of the reason you loved it. Recently, you went back to it. Whatever it is for you, it was exactly where you left it, doing exactly what it always did, and nothing came. You feel absolutely nothing. Not sadness, not joy or calm. You sat with something that used to take the top of your head off, and it felt the way watching paint dry feels. So you take the obvious explanation, because it's the only one anybody gives you. Maybe you say to yourself that you are older. You've seen more. Things simply become routine, and that is what happens to any person over time. This is just what I am like now. I just changed. Matteo Carati got very good at this same thing. By the middle of his life, nothing gets to him anymore. Not the work, not the people, not one thing he ever cared about. The Best of Youth is a 6 hour Italian film, in which we see him across years of his life. For the first of them, everything gets to him. Poetry is the center of his life. Human connections are deep and numerous, and he is willing to bear the consequences of defending what he believes is right. Except for this, you can put a year on it. Think. A temperament doesn't have a start date. Depth doesn't have a start date. This one has. Before it, things get to him. After it, he stops letting them. Steadily and methodically, over years. Nobody gave him this. He got good at it over years, with attention and repetition, and with a reason each time that made completely sense on the day it was made. He wasn't turning into himself. He was practicing. And if that's true of him, it's true of the thing you went back to and felt nothing for. So the question was never whether you feel less than you used to. It's how anybody gets that good at not letting anything through, and which part of your life went first. Before we watch Mateo's story, you need to understand that this is hard to see in one person. In one person, it just looks like the way they are. So look at it somewhere bigger, where nobody has a personality to blame it on. By the end of this, you will know what this thing is, and in what order it showed up in your own life. Imagine a country that decides that one of its own habits is killing it. It's a country on the coast. Everything it has ever had came in through the Harbours. And on one bad year, a sickness came in on a ship. For that reason, they decide to close the Harbours. Then ships find an alternative and start unloading on the beaches at night. In response to this, there are patrols now. The patrols hold the coast, so the goods come over the mountains instead. Yes, there are mountains too, but not as efficient as a cargo ship. In short time, this gets discovered, and now there are checkpoints in the mountain's path. In the checkpoints, they search the cards, but nobody searches letters. So now the post gets read. With time, inside the schools, children learn why all of these measures are necessary. Every step happened because the step before it wasn't enough. And after all steps are executed, it works. Almost nothing gets in. Now every office in that country focuses on one job. The men working in them start to forget how to do anything else. And the ship that started all this stopped sailing a long time ago, even before many of them were born. Even when you take the sickness away, the harbors stay shut. Nobody in that country stopped to ask whether the sickness was still coming. And even if they stopped, they wouldn't know what to do about it. So try this on your own life. Think about the last few years. Somebody said something to you close to this. Not your mother, not your closest friend. They have always known. Somebody who barely knew you. Someone at work. Someone you'd met twice. Maybe they said it straight out. Maybe they just got careful around you. But still you catch it. 4 years before that, nobody said anything at all. And then people did. Remember one thing from that country. The moment the harbor office realized it couldn't do the job alone. We're coming back to that. So now, when you watch Matteo, don't watch his personality. The first thing he shuts down makes sense. On the day he does it, it's a defensible action. Then something else has to go, because the first one wasn't enough. And just like that, on and on and on. The parts that go after, that have nothing to do with where this started. Watch for the order the harbors close in. Closing the harbors is the only move in the whole chain anybody will defend. Every closure after it happened because the one before it wasn't enough. The first one didn't need that, because it was the obvious reaction. Which is why it's the one nobody goes back and looks at or questions. It's the only one that holds up on its own. The story starts in Rome, 1966. He's in his early 20s, living with his parents and sisters, but especially with his brother Nicola, studying and serious about poetry. and everything that involves reading. During the worst of it, he does everything you'd want him to do. It's the small thing afterwards that starts to make no sense. Along with the school, Matteo was working at a mental institution as a companion to the patients. That's where he meets Georgia. She's being hurt in there, getting electroshocks as treatment. He starts to take a liking to her. He takes photographs of her and starts thinking of getting her out of there. Then the day of the final exam arrives. He's been preparing for it a long time, because it's really important to pursue the career he wants. He's asked to read a poem and say what he thinks of it. And he says the poetry is empty, and he names a different writer instead. The teacher doesn't take it well. He says, "Fine, name one that isn't empty." Matteo names one. The teacher calls his choice a cheap imitation of a better man. Matteo doesn't like that comment and stands up, gathers his things off the table, and walks out, blowing his chances to pass. He and Nicola had planned a trip, as let's say, a celebration for passing the final exams. But as he had already blown his chance, he went to the institution and took away Georgia. He'll keep her safe until he can take her to somebody who will. Because of this decision, they changed the trip's plan and made several attempts to get her to her family. In the end, they find out her father's location and they take her there. However, the father doesn't want to deal with her and insists on taking her back to the institution, disregarding the abuse completely. Matteo, angry at this, starts screaming and confronting Georgia's father, and the whole thing turns into a fight. Still, they live with her. Then somebody Nicola knows suggests a different hospital, one that doesn't abuse its patients, without anything really close to a plan. That suggestion is enough for everyone, so they agree on taking her there, and then they will go on the trip as planned. They are waiting at a station. Nicola sends Georgia to buy ice creams so the two of them can talk about the hospital without her hearing it. She reluctantly goes and buys them. She pays as normal as she can do it and turns to go. But the man behind the counter tells her she's forgotten her change. This freezes her completely. She goes back, but she doesn't pick up the money. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't leave either. She stands at the counter holding the ice creams. The man behind the counter starts sensing something is wrong with her. While this is happening, two officers come in and see this weird interaction. They start asking her questions. They ask for her identification, and basically for her to say something. But she is just unable to do anything, so they take her away. Matteo and Nicola see the two officers taking her without being able to do anything to stop that. That night, the two brothers talk it through. There's nothing available to them. They didn't know where she was taken, and even if they did, they have nothing on their side to free her. And adding to all of this, the trip is still sitting there. So they accept reality and agree they should move on. A few hours later, in the middle of the night while they were sleeping, a train comes through heading back to Rome, and Matteo gets on it. Nicola wakes up in time to see him go in. They argue about it. Matteo confessed to him that he blew the exam, and he isn't going on the trip. Nicola struggles to understand the correlation between those two things, but he can't. So he is incapable to reason with Matteo. To this point, everything we have seen Matteo do tells you where he's going. He's certainly going back to find Georgia. The train starts moving. He reaches down for his bag. He pulls out a book. He brings it up in front of him, both hands on it. He's about to open it, but he doesn't. He holds it down. The next thing the film shows you is him arriving at a military recruitment camp. He isn't going back to her. Georgia was taken away, and what he shot down was poetry. Nothing about a woman being taken away is answered by not reading on a train, and by abandoning the life path you wanted for years. The harbor closed over the part of him that could be reached. Poetry is where things got in. It's the same part of him that walked out of the exam, and walked her out of the building, and stood in front of her father. And that part had just taken him into a feeling of failure that he couldn't survive twice. So he left them shut and chose not to open them anymore. Think about when something went badly wrong in one part of your life, and remember what happened in the weeks after it. Something else lost its joy. Something with no connection to it at all. You stopped putting music on in the car, or you stopped going out, or you stopped picking up the guitar, or you stopped calling the one friend who always made you talk about your feelings. And this never seemed out of nowhere, because you always had a reason. To this day, you always have a reason, and it's always a fair one. You say things like, you didn't have the energy that month. It felt indulgent. You'd get back to it once things settled. Nothing came to ask about it. Your friend doesn't want to push your boundaries. The guitar doesn't come off the wall by itself. When you think about that stretch of your life now, you think about the thing that went wrong, whatever that was, but you don't think about what you lost because of it. Matteo had the book in his hands. He didn't open it, and the film moves on. And no one in his life ever finds out that was the moment. No one made him do that. There's no scene where it gets taken of him. No argument he loses. He had spent days trying to keep a woman safe and then watched two officers take her away. He spent a night working out that there was nothing left he could do about it. And then he did something about something else. This is Axiom 15, Resistance. Whatever has had the most of your attention, for the longest, with the most feeling attached to it. That is what your life is organized around now. Fighting it counts. And it's the one this axiom is about. It counts the same as loving it. Nothing in you was ever built to tell those two apart. It never asked what you meant by staring at something for 9 years. It only ever knew how long and how hard. So take the things you've been working on, the one that's been on your list for years. For a lot of people, it is exactly this one. How much things get to you, and you pay for it. A piece of feedback anybody else dismisses and forgets takes 2 days of you. The tone of an email decides the afternoon. You have sat in a room and watched somebody take the same hit you just took and go straight back to work. And you have every reason to want what they have. That is a real problem, and it was worth trying to solve. Everything after this assumes you were right about that. And there's an instruction for it. You've had it your whole life, from people who meant well. They will tell you to simply don't let it get to you. That sentence is crafted more carefully than it sounds. It promises an outcome. The thing happens and it doesn't get to you. Anybody would agree and take the advice. But let's pay more attention to the part, don't let it. Letting is something a person does at a door. For that to be an instruction rather than a wish. Somebody has to be standing at the door, watching for the thing, spotting it when it turns up, holding the line while it tries to come through. The outcome is the place you'd like to live. The verb is a job with a shift pattern, and the people telling it to you can't hear the gap, because most of them don't have the problem. They aren't giving you directions. They are describing where they already stand, and they say it the way you will tell somebody the water's fine. So you take the job, and doing it doesn't look like effort, which is exactly why you can keep it up for 20 years. You start watching for it all the time, because you have to. Nobody guards a door they aren't watching. So a piece of your attention goes to how feedback is likely to arrive. That covers the meetings. It doesn't cover the corridor, because things also get to you in random conversations. So the watching extends to those conversations too. And some of those conversations happen with people you like. So it extends to the people you like. Then something gets to you in a piece of music. And music comes on the review. Then you are fine until you aren't. You noticed it on a specific day, over nothing. So that day get watched too. Nothing in that sequence got bigger. Nothing got extreme. You never turned anything up. Every one of those was the same size decision, made calmly, with reason behind it. This one cannot cover it on its own. Bring in the next one. The model failed on what it asked you to do, even if you think you did it right. It was built to always end up here. Guarding its attention, held on one thing, with feeling attached, kept up across years. Now describe devotion. You get the same sentence back. There is nothing in either description that will tell you which one you were looking at. So, for however long you've been at this, you've been telling the whole system what matters most to you. And the thing you kept naming was the thing you were trying to get rid of. This is also where the origin story stops being the cause. Maybe you can say where it started. A parent, a year, a diagnosis, something that happened when you were 11. It may be completely right. An account of where a thing came from can be exactly right and completely useless, as it doesn't tell you nothing at all about where it went. Every place the watching spread to was opened to help with one problem, and every one of them now has that problem written into what it does all day. The thing itself never grew. What changed is that it got more places to live. It spread across all domains in your life and didn't take one of them by force. Each was opened for it, by you, as a reasonable answer to the last one not being enough. The moment the Harbour office found out it couldn't do the job alone. A campaign is what a fight turns into when it needs more than one department to keep it going. And that's what this has been. And you have been the one staffing it. There's an older answer than the thicker-skinned one. It's been around a lot longer, and a lot of serious people have arrived at it. Stop struggling. The struggle is what keeps it alive. It gets the diagnosis half right. It noticed the fighting was doing damage, and it says the fight is what fits it. That what you resist persists. That it grows on the attention. That it comes back stronger for being pushed. But look at your specific situation. Look at your own departments. It never got stronger. It's been the same size since you were 19. What the fight gave it was somewhere to go. If every department opened in another address, then the place this shows up next is not the place it started. It's somewhere with no connection to the original problem at all. With different people, a different part of a life. A decade later, with everyone not knowing what started it all. So, follow Matteo the next 11 years and ask, where does the campaign open an office he never went looking for? "11 years. He goes on with his life. He gets a job and he's arguably good at it. He gets where he's going. He never says he's unhappy. Matteo has an answer ready to justify his life choices. He took an oath. He follows orders even when he could have chose not to. The work is worth doing, and somebody has to be the one doing it. All of that is true, and you could build a whole life on it. And people just like Matteo, just like me, and just like you, too. But watch the other thing at the same time. Not what he says, where he can be get, and who's allowed how close, and what arrives at his door and what gets sent back unopened. Those two run beside each other for 11 years and never meet. You already know the order to watch for. He's already shot one thing. Watch what has to go after it. And watch how ordinary the day is when it goes. He registers and comes out of that room with his hair cut short. Inside the camp, he takes a letter from Nicola into a bathroom stall. In a long room with individual doors, and reads the whole thing in there with nobody near him. He comes out. The other recruits are outside with a balloon full of water, and one of them throws it at him and misses, and it bursts against the door. He takes hold of that man and twists one arm up behind his back, and when a second recruit comes over to calm him down, so he let go, Matteo kicks that one, then throws the first man back into them and tells them he isn't joking. He tells them twice more not to screw with him. The third time, he swears. He picks his letter up off the floor and walks out. They stand watching him go. One of them says he is nuts. He makes one friend at the camp, a man called Luigi. 6 months later, the river comes over its banks and floods Florence. And both brothers are there in the same week, helping. In a church, Matteo goes in with his battalion, and at the door the commander splits the squad. Gives Matteo the room to do on his own, and takes the rest of the men off with him. Nicola, who was there helping, stays with Matteo. While they work, they see a page in the water, part of a religious text, and they get it up between them and start to read it. It's in Latin, and although they struggle, they start to read it. Down the corridor, the commander starts shouting at his soldiers. Nicola makes half a joke about the men's tone, but Matteo says the commander is right and that they are wasting time. So he puts the page down and goes back to the work. 8 years after, in the year 1974, he is a policeman in Turin. There are protests in the city, and he's brought in as support. Nicola is also in the street, but on the other side of them. He is part of the movement. They don't meet during the protest. They meet afterwards, in a courtroom. Several protesters attacked Luigi and left him paralyzed for life. And Matteo nearly killed one of the men who did it. They don't agree about what happened, but they are in good terms anyway. So Nicola takes him back to the apartment and tells him he is going to be a father. After, he's asked to transfer from Bologna to Sicily, and he takes it. When he is pressed on why he didn't refuse, he says he never says no to an order. In Sicily, he meets a photographer. They talk about photographs, about people, about books, and libraries. When she asks his name, he tells her his name is Nicola. He keeps working in Sicily until a crime scene where a civilian is standing and watching with his son next to him. Matteo goes at him about it. Although it never gets physical, another officer has to hold him, and it's enough to put him on a special leave. Just right after this, he receives a letter from Nicola. Nicola says he's found Georgia during an inspection, in a basement, tied to a bed with other patients, and she had been there for years. He asks Matteo to take time off from work and come. He already has the time off, so he drives to Rome very fast. In Rome, he stops to see Luigi first. Then, while he's driving through the city, he sees his mother and father walking on the street. So he stops the car. He leans a little toward the far window, like he's about to call to them, but he doesn't say anything. They don't notice him, also. So he drives on, again, very fast. Later, he goes to the hospital where Nicola works. They talk. He goes in to see Georgia. Afterwards, the two of them head back to Nicola's place. And Julia meets them on the stairs and tells them their father has died. Matteo drives them. Nicola is beside him. Julia and the baby are in the back. And he's going too fast. Julia asks him to slow down, but he doesn't. She asks again, and Matteo doesn't care. Then she starts yelling, and she tells Nicola to do something. So Nicola starts yelling too, and Matteo still doesn't slow down. After more shouting, he pulls the car over and gets out. Nicola goes after him. Matteo is crying. They hold on to each other, and both of them cry. 3 times in 11 years, and it's the same shape every time. A poem under flood water, and he's the one who says it's a waste of time. A woman asking him his name, and he gives her his brother's. His parents an arm's length away through a car window, and he cannot say a single word. 3 completely different things happening to him. Nothing in common between them except the men they happen to. and each time the same thing gets shot, without noise, by him, with a reason sitting right there to justify it. He's a soldier, and there is work to do. He's making conversation with a stranger. He's awkward about it, or he's late, or a long time has passed to reconnect with his parents. It's just not the moment. None of the three came with a moment where he had to choose out loud. In the office the campaign opened in those years is not the one you would have put money on at the train. Poetry was first. This one is his mother and his father in Rome. It has nothing to do with a woman taken out of a shop, or the reason he decided to abandon his studies. His parents didn't know about any of them. There is a man inside all of this making the other case. Nicola grew up in that house, with those parents, in that decade. He was next to Matteo at the station when the officers woke Georgia out. And he was also in the church. And he's the one who went back into those institutions years later and found her in a basement. Nicola never stopped caring. He let people get to him, no matter the years and the difficulties. Whatever happened to Matteo happened to both of them. And Matteo taking his name is no coincidence. Yours won't line up like that, because nobody is filming you. They are years apart, and in different parts of your life, and each one had a reason on the day. A call you didn't return, and then didn't return again. A thing you used to make that you stopped making. Somebody you were close to, who's now somebody you hear about from other people. Set them side by side and you would have it in 4 seconds. But you're never going to set them like that. There is no reason to. They are not related. That's the whole point. They are from different years of your life. Different people from different locations. And for all of them, a fair reason every time. And the last one is the one you defend hardest. Matteo had 11 years of this. And if you could stop him on any one of those days, he would have told you, honestly, that he was just doing his job, that he just wanted to be left alone. Which leaves one question about him, and it isn't a kind one. Did he know what he was doing? There are 2 good explanations for a man like this, and we go all over them. The first one says something happened to him. He was 22, working inside a place that was hurting the people kept in it. He risked it all to save Georgia, but ultimately watched her being taken away, with not a single thing he could do. That's not easy thing to cope. What you get afterwards is a man who builds himself around it. The second one is about attachment. How a person learns to let others close. And what happens to that when it goes wrong early and constantly enough. Get that wrong several times, and you get an adult who holds everyone at a fixed distance for the rest of his life. It's hard to argue against these two. Both are answering the question of where it started. And on that question, they do okay. He wasn't imagining any of it. Something did start there. Except the first one has a broader problem. As I already said, Nicola grew up in that house too, under the same circumstances, with the same beginning, two different men out of the other side. Whatever distributed this across 17 years of Matteo's life, the beginning didn't do it. And the second one has a poetry problem. Attachment is a theory about people. How near you let them come. What you do when they get there. The first thing that shot in Matteo wasn't a person. It was a book and a career. Nothing in a theory about how you love people predicts the 360 Matteo did. Neither of them has anything to say about what came next, or in what order. So let's put them in order. In the year 1966, poetry. He has a book and he doesn't open it. And 6 months after that, he's got a page of Latin text, something he would love 6 months ago, and he's the one who says they are wasting time. Then the work, 11 years of it, and at the end somebody asked him why he didn't turn down the posting, and he says he never says no to an order. No sense of self anymore. By then, he's arranged a life where preparing things isn't part of the job. In 1977, his mother and father. He stops the car. He leans over, but doesn't call out. Take those as 3 separate sad things that happen to a man and you're back to a temperament. Line them up with the dates attached, and each one opened because the one before it hadn't taken enough ground. He was standing right there, awake, for all 3. He indeed did this, one decision at a time, every one of them defensible to him. If you build the thing yourself, out of choices that were yours, why is it still building? Here's what 11 years never once contained. A single afternoon where doing it right and doing it wrong looked any different. There isn't one. There is not one. And that's smaller and worse than you were hoping for. From inside the effort, giving everything you have to getting rid of a thing and giving everything you have to keeping that thing at the center of your life are the same event. The same attention spent in the same hours. The same weight of feeling fastened onto it. The man doing it sees work getting done. What's actually being recorded is priority. And the two never come apart far enough for you or anybody to notice. And none of what made it worse is about him being weak at this. He was excellent at it. This is what people miss when they looked at somebody like Matteo and go looking for a defect. He was disciplined and consistent, strong and confident, extremely charismatic, someone who knew what he was supposed to do. Every move that felt correct to him pointed the same direction. The better he got. the more thoroughly it got done, despite the conditions. Then let's look at the engine. Every new place the thing turns up arrives as evidence that it goes deeper than he thought, which is an argument for more effort, which opens the next place, which arrives as evidence that it goes deeper still. Nothing in that chain is a mistake. Each link is a sensible response to the link before it. That's the campaign at full size. A competent man, with good reasons, staffing more departments. Then you can watch the same structure somewhere else. What Bainfield and Corngold documented is what happens to a medical apparatus organized entirely around the destruction of disease. Not around the patient, around the disease. Roughly 1 in 5 people admitted to a research hospital picks up an illness they didn't walk in with. And the hardest version of it is chemotherapy. It cures a few thousand patients under 30 a year. And for most older cancer patients, it has never moved the death rates at all. The disease gets attacked, but the person doesn't get better. And nobody in that hospital is doing anything wrong. Every one of them is doing the thing they were trained to do, targeting exactly where they were told to. Which is the part Donella Meadows points while watching systems from the outside. She says that inside a structure like this, nobody is behaving irrationally. Every party is responding in proportion to something that is genuinely happening to them. So the man fighting the thing with everything he has isn't making an error of judgment. He's making the locally correct move. Inside a structure where the locally correct move is the mechanism. Of course, I'm not telling you that you should do nothing. Meeting a hard situation from a settled place is a different act with a different results. And nothing here says a word against it. It's not a claim that your fighting was invented. It may be entirely inherited, and entirely accurate, and entirely not your fault. What made it permanent when you went at it head on is a separate mechanism from whatever installed it in the first place. And it isn't about freedom either. You can name this out loud at any time, and it will carry on organizing exactly what it was organizing before you knew. Knowing where it came from was never the thing that moved it. So what does this change today? Before anything else changes, it is one thing: what intensification means. Up until now, a thing getting louder while your work on it has meant you aren't working hard enough. That's been the only available meaning, and you've been acting on it for years. From here it means something else. The force is doing what the force does. Your week will go as always, with the same unwelcome evidence sitting in front of you, but with different information. Nothing else about the week has moved. What to do about it, it isn't in this Axiom territory. And I'll come back to this later. So, 3 of them occurred in order. However, there is a 4th. And it's the one he walked into for no reason connected to any of these. And it goes to We are back in Rome, year 1983, 17 years after the train. He's been posted back, and this next part has nothing to do with any of that. He walks into a library for a book and sees a familiar face. One question has been sitting there since he drove past his parents. One that I ask myself while watching for the first time. Whether he knows. Well, he's going to tell you himself. He goes in for a book. The woman he met in Sicily 6 years ago is in there, working at the library, and he asks if she came because of what he told her. She smiles and says yes. They spend her lunch break together. Another night he picks up a woman on the street, and after getting into business, they tell each other their names, and he gives her his own, the real one. Then he's back at the library, and they go for a walk around Rome at night. He tells her he's an engineer, that he works abroad, that the job has him traveling constantly. He says he doesn't like it, and what he would really want is to do what she does and be somewhere surrounded by books. She tells him to drop all of it and come with her. He changes the subject and goes over to a man selling chestnuts. Later, they are at a bowling alley. She knocks the whole rack down and jumps on him and kisses him. When they come out, it's raining, so they run for the car, and he opens her door and then tells her he has to make a call. The phone booth is a few steps away. He picks up the receiver and stands there with it. He isn't talking. He isn't dialing. He stands in the booth holding the phone with that same straight face, looking at nothing for a few minutes. Then he comes back to the car. He says there is a problem at a construction site and that he has to go. She asks how long. Not long, he'll be back on the 7th, he says, and that he'll come to her when the library closes. The 7th comes. She's waiting outside the library, and for the looks of it, she's been there for a very long time. So she gives up and starts walking. The camera frame follows her. It stays a few meters back, moving when she moves, holding her in the middle of the street. That view is from Matteo. He's in his car. He's right behind her and she doesn't turn around. It goes on like that for a few long stretch of road. Then he starts closing the distance. Then he pulls the car around in the road, very hard, and drives off fast the other way. Now we jump to December 31st. He is in his office with two men, a club owner and somebody who works for him. They are discussing something to do with drugs, and it's getting louder, because the club owner has an attitude and Matteo has a temper. Somebody knocks at the door. His partner tells him there's a woman named Mirella asking for him. He goes out into the corridor and she's standing there. She wants to know why he lied to her. She tells him how she found him. An identity card left behind at the bowling alley and somebody there who knew what he did for a living. He tells her he's supposed to be the one who investigates people, and instead everybody investigates him. She says she only wants to see him. He doesn't really care. She brings up all the lies he told her, including the ones he said in Sicily. Matteo offers to talk somewhere else, but she says there is no need. She'll go, and she won't bother him again. He once again doesn't care. He turns around and starts walking back to his office. After seeing he didn't care, she says,
Mi hai detto che ti piacciono i libri? Perché uno un libro può decidere di chiuderlo quando vuole. Nella vita invece è diverso, non sei tu che decidi.
He turns and starts to talk as he comes back toward her.
Ti sbagli. Ho sempre deciso tutto io. Pure di non vederti più l'ho deciso io.
She says,
Questa non è una scelta.
Brava, l'hai capita? Sono una merda, faccio schifo, così meglio perderlo che trovarlo, d'accordo? Te ne vai adesso.
They are face to face. He is speaking quietly, almost like he's agreeing with her. And she tells him she doesn't think he is like that.
Non ci credo che sei così.
Che cazzo vuoi da me? Si può sapere che cazzo vuoi?
Nicola!
Matteo! Mi chiamo Matteo! Vattene via. Vattene,
He goes back into his office and hits the club owner. You are wrong. I've always decided. 17 years. He finally says out loud how he really thinks. But what about the other thing he said? That he's shit and he sucks. It could be the poetry he walked out at 22. It could be Georgia, how he couldn't keep her out of suffering. It could be the uniform he chose twice and the actions he did while wearing it. It could be his family and all the years he wasn't close to them. It could be that he won't say any of those out loud and knows it. Nothing in the film picks one, and nothing needs to. And us trying to pick one is impossible. What I can confidently say is that every one of them is a door he shut. It is in getting caught that makes him start yelling. Not the identity card or any of his other lies. He couldn't care less about those. But when she tells him she doesn't think that he is like he thinks he is, that's when he goes off. He can be found out and told to his face what he is by a woman who barely knows him. What he cannot tolerate is somebody refusing it, because being worthless is the last thing standing between her and him. He would rather be worthless than reachable. A woman on the street gets his real name, immediately and with no hesitation. Mirella gets a bunch of lies. In Palermo 6 years before that. Ask her name for his. He gave her his brother's. He recommended her that library in Rome where they meet again. He even asked her, the day he found her in it, whether he was the reason she was there. And then he spent every hour they spent together telling her he was someone else. A temperament problem doesn't do that. Someone with that problem will lie to the sex worker too. To everyone equally. This is aimed. And it's aimed at exactly one thing. And it's the thing that could get close. Which is what she tells him hit harder. Books, she says. He likes them because he can close them whenever he likes. He still reads. He was in that library for a book. After all these 17 years, he's still a man who goes into libraries. Books were never the thing he got rid of. He can hold one whenever because it can't do anything to him anymore. It doesn't matter how much he reads, it doesn't get to him anymore. No one in his family has ever said this to him. His mother hasn't. Nicola hasn't. It takes a woman who met him twice, in 2 different cities, under a false name, and who has no idea who he was at 22. And she tries to bring him down by calling him Nicola. Matteo has spent 17 years being unreachable and one evening being told he isn't. The name he cannot stand to hear is the one he gave her himself. Think about who gets the straight answer out of you because you're not careful with everyone. The person next to you on a flight. Somebody you'll deal with once and never see again. A stranger asks what you actually do all day and you tell them. And you are surprised by how much you say. And you don't think twice about it, because there's nothing there to protect. Now think about who gets the opposite treatment. The one where you're fine, work's busy, and you've been meaning to call. It's not the people you don't care about. Not sharing anything with them feels like being considerate. Not putting it on them. Not making a whole thing out of something they cannot do anything about. And if somebody who knows you well told you tonight that you are further away than you used to be, you will have an answer ready. But the one you couldn't answer is somebody telling you you are better than you have decided you are. You will shut down that conversation quickly. You will change the subject, make a joke, or agree too fast so it stops. Or maybe you would crash out just like Matteo did. He did it at that volume because 17 years of practice had taken everything else off the table. You've got the quiet version, and it has been working well to this day. So did his. 17 years, and every place he pointed this, it did the job it was assigned. The poetry stopped being able to do anything to him. The work turned into somewhere that preferring things wasn't part of the day. The love of his family didn't get to him anymore. And a woman who was into him and that stood in front of him with everything she had, he didn't care. And he went back into the room pretending nothing happened. A country that closes its harbors that well ends up with a coastline nothing comes in. Not as a punishment for overdoing it, as the thing it achieved. In the same night, after the corridor, and after Matteo hit the club owner, his partner sends him home to avoid more problems. So Matteo goes to his mother's, as it's New Year's. The whole family is reunited. The door opens on a woman who is glad he came, and behind her a room of people who are also glad. After spending some time in the table with the family, he says he has to make a call about work, and his mother tells him to use her room. He sees his old report cards are still up on the wall in there. She says the marks back to him. Perfect, all of them. After looking at them a final time, he puts them on the wall. She was proud of him 20 years ago, and the feeling hasn't faded. She stands in that room waiting to say something to him, but she can't. Matteo is leaving early, and without telling anyone. At the door on his way out, his brother Nicola wants to say something too, but cannot. Matteo looks at him for a few seconds, just like them trying to say something, and just as them, he can't. He tried to contact Mirella over and over, from his mother's room, and then from his, and doesn't get her. In the last attempt, she wanted to answer, but she was late to the phone. When midnight arrives, fireworks are launched. On a television they scream Happy New Year, and he says Happy New Year back to it, barely audible, with nobody left to hear it. Then, just after midnight, he ends it all. Something done to a man is the part he has less to say over. Something he built is the part he has most. And it stays that way whether or not he knew what he was building while he built it. If I built it, then I did this to myself. That's one thought already forming. And it's a charge. And it's also the wrong one. Building isn't a crime. Whatever you were protecting yourself from was there, and everything you put up against it was intelligent work done by somebody who was paying attention and who got better at it every year. The aim was wrong. A wrong aim carried out well for 20 years by somebody who was doing their best with it. There's no version of that sentence where the person who did it could be considered a villain. You can name where yours started and what it opened next and roughly what year each one went. That's a map. And having a map in your hand does feel like arriving somewhere. The relief that comes with it is the same competence that built all of this. Showing up to file the case as closed. It has never once been the thing that opened a harbor. And this one will get up and move, probably before the video ends. If I build it, I can go take it apart. Properly this time, starting tonight. That's the campaign against the campaign with the same discipline. The same good reasons, one floor up, targeted now at the defenses instead of at the sickness. And the officers will staff for it, no questions asked, because that is what they are for. Which is going to happen anyway, including with this. Some part of the next few days is going to take what you got here and run as a new assignment, and it will feel exactly like understanding. It was built. That is the only condition under which any of it was ever yours, and it's still the condition. The places you cannot feel anything anymore aren't a description of who you are. They are a record of where you won. So what you carry out of this? One question. And it works on any part of your life that's gone quiet. What was this keeping out? Not what's wrong with you. Not when you got like this. What that one door was shut against. And what the situation looked like when you shut it. Then go back to the thing you were thinking about at the start of this video. The one you used to love that gives you nothing now. You closed it. And it gives you nothing because it worked. Something this video doesn't explain. The feeling that you are too late to change. That just like Matteo, the time to change is well past gone. That other people got where you wanted and you are still here doing this, left behind. That one isn't about what you closed. Behind is measured against a date, and somebody set that date. Where it came from is a different mechanism. And I explained it all in the Tick Tick Boom case study, and it's appearing on your screen. This is one piece of a system. Every axiom in it is a layer of the same machinery, and none of them were built to work alone. They were built to work together. Because changing who you are doesn't come off a single insight, and it doesn't come off 30 days. It's precision work, and it's done on the place you never get to move out of. If this is how you want to look at things, subscribe. That's how the rest of the system reaches you. Like the video if it did something. Thank you for watching.